If you've been thinking of buying a vacation home or investment property or looking to retire here along Florida's Forgotten Coast on the Florida Panhandle, I'm putting together a three-part series of videos, and along with those videos will be some resource material which you can use as a guide to help you along this journey with the goal of being able to walk you through the process from your first online search all the way to closing. My name is Alan Bird I'm with the Bird Coastal Team, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Beach Properties of Florida, here on St. George Island. And in this first video, we're going to cover what you need to do to start your search, how to narrow down the right property, and what you need to understand in making that offer. We're going to define what your goals are in searching for a home, how to get financially prepared, finding the right agent, searching for the homes, touring the properties themselves, evaluating what you're seeing, and in the end, deciding what makes sense and writing an offer. So with our first point, of course, you want to identify what your goals are. Are you buying a vacation home for your family? Are you looking for a short-term rental investment? Or are you planning to retire here some days? Or are you looking for a second home that can generate some short-term rental income? So your goals are affected by a number of decisions: the location, the budget, financing, insurance, rental rules, furnishings, property conditions, and how aggressive you should be with your offer. Some examples, a buyer could be looking for a family beach house that may care more about beach access, bedroom count, outdoor living space, access to a dock if they have a boat, may be more concerned about the rental history of the property, the occupancy rate, the property management company, and their return on investment, maintenance, insurance costs, and of course, year-round livability and availability to, again, medical care, shopping, grocery stores. These things are important down here on the Forgotten Coast. The clearer you are on your goal, the easier it is to separate the pretty house from the right house. But before we get serious about touring homes or even searching homes, we need to look at what you can actually buy. One of the things that are critically important is determining how you're going to afford this home. Are you going to be financing? Well, you need to get pre-approval so that you know how much house you can buy. If you're paying cash, then you probably need to prepare what's called a proof of funds statement from your banker or lending company, your finance company, whoever's handling your 401k or other investment properties. Get a document prepared so that when you do make that offer, it's one of the things they like to ask for down here, particularly when you're buying the larger homes. And in some cases, a seller may even want proof before even allowing you to even see the house, especially on the higher end homes and investment property. A second home loan is different from a primary residence home. Property loans usually come at different rates, down payment requirements, underwriting standards. There's even a thing called a DSCR loan, which stands for, let me see if I can find that real quick, a debt service coverage ratio loan. What that is that's a loan that you can get for investment property that generates rental income. As long as you've got a good rating and you've got enough money, 20% down, you don't have to be able to afford the home as long as there's like a rental history to prove that you can generate the revenue to be able to make the loan payment. So DSCR loans may be a good option for a rental focused buyer. Insurance rates can affect what you qualify. And that comes down to what flood zone you're in, whether you're in the AE flood zone or an X flood zone, which is up, high and dry. You don't have to have flood insurance for, for a conventional loan or some other type of loan product. And then you got to account for HOA fees, condo fees. Again, property taxes come into play. Condo dues, we don't really have a lot of condominiums down here on the Forgotten Coast. We do have a few. So those are considerations, particularly if there's, a huge assessment coming up. When it comes to condos and HOAs, you'll want to get, all that documentation from them, like the CNR, the covenants and restrictions, their declaration of incorporation. You want to get the minutes of the last few meetings that they've had, a number of issues that we'll cover later on. So your budget is not just about the purchase price. on the coast, you also need to understand what is called the full cost of ownership. So buying on the coast is a lot different than buying a house inland. There are things that an agent here on the coast understands. That's flood zones, that's wind insurance, rental history, vacation rental rules, local neighborhoods throughout the area, HOA, condo considerations, property conditions that are common to coastal homes that a lot of people fail to see, and then how to evaluate value in smaller, more segmented markets. So it's important to find a good realtor who knows the hoops that have to be jumped through, all the gotchas in the market down here. Some of the other issues that are involved are, when you're trying to build on vacant land, making sure that you're getting access to the utilities and water and everything. And one other consideration is that there's not a lot of sewer hookups around here. There's a lot of septic down here. And also, if you're building right along the bay and you're wanting to putting a dock, well, you've got to have permitting through both the county and the state to be able to put in a dock. So you need to find somebody who can help you navigate that aspect of it if you're considering on building down here on the coast. One of the things you have to do once you've established what your goals are, once you've established how much you can afford, then the next step is to find a good realtor. And when you're looking for any home that is in an MLS, one of the things that came out of the NAR settlement is that you need some type of showing agreement before you can see any house. Now, I will throw an exception out there, and that is regarding, open houses. Now, with an open house, you don't need a realtor to go into, because that's why they call it open house. If you're down here vacationing or visiting, and you see an open house, you can go into that open house, even though it's on the MLS, and you can tour the home because there's a realtor there and there's no commitment here. But if you're wanting to see another home that's not an open house, it's pretty much required that you have a showing agreement. And these showing agreements come in three flavors. I'm going to quickly go through them. I'm not going to go into detail. You can actually Google them, and YouTube is full of videos to go through all the Florida agreements. But they come in three different flavors. One is kind of like, as you might want to call it, date the realtor type of agreement, where there's hardly any obligation there at all. And then there's one a little bit more obligated, and then there's the marry the realtor, where it's more of an exclusive buyer broker agreement. But I'll quickly show you each one of these quickly, and then we'll move on. This one is called a property pre-touring agreement. And essentially, you're just putting your name in here, who the brokerage you want to look at with, and then you would probably have, if you wanted to, you could provide a flat fee. A lot of flat fee brokerages will use this right here. If it costs like $500, for $1,000, you can put that amount in there, do it closing. For most of the other brokerages, we are commission based, so we would probably check that second box there. And if there's some kind of transaction fee, you could also add that at closing. Generally, I don't run into that much. That is essentially your pre, and then you of course sign it down here at the bottom. That's your property pre-touring agreement. Really, you can actually have multiples of these. You can be working with one realtor over here with a pre-touring agreement to look at this house, and then over here there may be you have another agreement with somebody else to look at another house. And then we'll move up to the next level, which is your showing agreement. Here it allows you, basically give you more time if you're really interested in looking at real estate. You've got a number of properties that you're looking at. You're actually going to set a time, a span of time up here at the top, and then of course the brokerage, and then you'll just list the properties that you're wanting to see. And down here it kind of details out what each of the broker's obligation is in terms of adhering to the fair housing rules, being fair and judicious with the providing assistance in real estate services to the consumer. And then, of course, there's the consumer obligations. And then down here towards the bottom, there's this, again, we get into the compensation, where you're saying, all right, I'm going to employ your services, and I'll give you either, a flat fee or a percentage, whether it's 1, 2, 3%, whatever you want it to be. And then, of course, there's a non-refundable retainer fee that you could use to say, hey, upon execution of this agreement, I'll pay you $500 as a retainer fee, any additional terms. And then, of course, you fill that out as well. And then once you feel like you found a realtor that you really want to work with that help you achieve the goal of buying real estate, then you really need to look at the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement, because at that point now, that's a commitment of the both of you working together for a common goal. He has a fiduciary responsibility, the realtor does, once he signs this agreement, to help you achieve your goal of buying a home, getting it to closing. He's going to give all the resources that you need to get your goals achieved. And it's just pretty much similar to the other one. And we'll go through a scenario here. I mean, you could put in down here as far as your percentage. You know, I'm going to give you an example, and this will be something that I would deploy, or I would utilize pretty much all the time. If I were to sign an agreement with a buyer, and I said, I'll help you, you give me 3% now of the price. Well, let's say that we go through, we find a number of houses that you are interested in, you find the home that you love, and we find out that the seller is only offering 2% to the buyer's broker. Now, as per this agreement, then you would be responsible for bringing the other 1% at closing. But for the most part, I'm willing to work with any, and a lot of other realtors would be amenable to signing an addendum to say, hey, I'm going to, for this house here, we're going to just cut my commission back down to 2% so that we can satisfy all parties and get this home to close. That's generally how most realtors would work that. Some of them don't. So you just need to be aware of that. So going back now, I think we've pretty much covered that. So these are the issues here that a showing agreement should not feel like a trap. It's just clearly to explain the relationship between the agent that's helping you. So now that we've got the agreement signed, you're ready to work with a realtor. The next thing you need to do is look at being able to search for your home that you're looking for. The buyers often start with a lot of resources that are available out there, a lot more than they used to have decades ago. You've got Zillow, Realtor.com. Every brokerage has their own website. So, those sites are useful for browsing, but they may not always provide a full local picture. A real estate agent can help you with the MLS based searches that may include filtering out and giving you more accurate information. It's things like price range, location, property type, number of bedrooms and bathrooms, your beach access, your Gulf access, canal boating access, rental potential, HOA or condo rules, flood zones. Is the house furnished, unfurnished? The age of the home, the roof age, the HVAC. Is there a pool? The septic. How much can the septic hold? And when I say it's, not in terms of the gallons, but let's say that you've got a septic system that's rated for 6 people, but you plan on having a rental that's able to handle 12 people. Well, that could be very well a violation. So there's all these nuances that you need to be aware of when you start doing your search. I mean, each area is has a different personality. St. George is not the same as Cape San Blas, or Indian Pass, and Indian Pass is not the same as Mexico Beach. If you're looking for a more of a laid back, retirement type situation where you don't want to be near, short term rentals, you may want to look at just, Port St. Joe in the municipality, and also with Apalachicola, or maybe even Carabel, or all the way to Shell Point in Wakulla County. So, the right search is not just about finding homes that match your price range. It's also about finding homes that match your purpose. So I'm going to show you quickly my website. I mean, it's my website with beach properties of Florida. I'm looking at building out a team site that's going to have some more resources to it, but it's essentially going to be the same in terms of the search. So let's take a look at it. So here is my website. That I mean, every agent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services here, Beach Properties of Florida, has their own personal website. Essentially looks this way. I mean, mine's more, you know, aimed towards the Forgotten Coast. So you'll notice right off the bat, there are some images here that are recognizable. And across here, you've got your search. These are for if you're interested in buying, selling, and then it also has a breakdown of each of the communities along the Forgotten Coast, gives you a little synopsis of what each community is about, and then also breaks down the stats on that area. Well, let's just briefly just take a look at Mexico Beach, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So you're going to get this little brief synopsis about Mexico Beach, and then you get the snapshots and how many homes are currently for sale. Just a lot of statistics. Here's some of the neighborhood summary. These are some homes for sale here. Here's some homes that are pending here. Here's some that have recently sold. And then you get a breakdown of sold by square footage, and then a market summary survey of the area. And then if you wanted, some more information, you could, just reach out to me, and then we can deep dive further into that market if you're interested in this area here. So I'll bounce back out here to the front page, because what we want to look at specifically is how to search. Now, I would like for anybody I'm working with to be able to sign up, which is over here on the right side here, sign up, and that sets up an account for this website so that you would be able to then do a search, and it's similar to Zillow, and I'll show you that quickly. So you're setting up an account, and then you can go in and you can heart the ones that you like, and you'll notice when we go into the search, it's very Zillow-like in the sense that you've got this map over on the left-hand side, and then over here on the right, you got the particular listings that are found on that map. Now, let's say if I go down to drag this down, I want to go in further and look at, let's go down here, looking at St. George Island specifically. Now as I narrow in on St. George Island, over here on the right, the listings will refresh to show you, those listings that you're looking at in the map view. So it's very Zillow-like in that regard. And then from that point on, you can go in and then, do some filtering here, set your pricing, what you're looking for. Looking for a gated community, looking for new construction where the horses are allowed. They're not allowed in St. George Island, I can tell you that. A person where you got a pool, whether your waterfront, Gulf Bay has a dock. These are the kind of things you can set your filter for, and then you can then get alerts when new properties come online. Any of the other things, so again, the things that you want to pay attention to when you're doing your search, age of the home, because the older a home is down here on the coast, a lot of times more of the maintenance is going to be required on it. And that goes to the roof age, the HVAC age, windows and doors, the siding, whether it's, the weather, the sunny weather down here can be brutal on vinyl siding. So you also need to pay attention to the age of the decks, the stairs, the railings, the pilings, the foundation, the elevation, flood zone, insurance availability, prior storm damage, rental wear and tear. I like to call these homes down here the cash cows. They've been rode hard and put up wet. I mean, there's some wear and tear that renters will put on the home. So you want to look at whether there's been any recent updates, the quality of the renovations, again and the health of the septic or sewer system, and whether there's any docks, seawalls, lifts, pool conditions, elevator, and some of the rental specific issues. If you're looking at it in terms of short-term rental income, is there a rental history? Because you can get access to that information to help you guide you in making your decision. What rental agencies manage it? Are there any future bookings in place? And that's an issue that we'll get further on down the road. Are the furnishings in the home included? That's nice if you're looking for rental income, because you don't have to refurnish the home. You just, buy it and go, and you're, already generating income. Are there owner stays that affect revenue? A lot of people looking for these as vacation homes, so they want to be able to block out time during the year so that they themselves can enjoy their own home. Are there HOA or local restrictions? Does the home photograph well? Is it easy for guests to access the beach, the restaurants, the boat ramps, and other attractions? So on the coast, a home can look beautiful online, but still have issues that affect the insurance, maintenance, rental income. and the resale value. So looking back at this map, I just want to just quickly show you. We'll just take a look at this. Click on one here, and this is what the view is from the page when you're looking at the detailed view of a listing. So you get to see, all the photos of the home that you would normally see in the MLS, details out that information. You get a map view, and then really detailed information about the home to determine, whether or not this is a home that interests you and is worth actually tour. So once you have determined the homes that you want to tour, it's good to schedule some time. Most of the time, my buyers they're coming from out of town or out of this area, whether nearby, maybe Tallahassee, maybe over as far as Jacksonville. For the most part, though, they're coming in from out of state in nearby states like Alabama and Georgia and further north. So you can buy a home sight unseen. I really encourage my buyers to come down here, spend some time with me, and where we get to talk, meet each other, and then I can get a better idea of what it is you're looking for. You can get your eyeballs on these homes, and then I kind of guide you in terms of being able to better see the home in terms of what it can offer you and what are some of the pitfalls that a house can present. So once we've narrowed that down, you can walk through, we determine which home it is that you have an interest in. And if it is something that you want to put an offer in, then we'll cover the offer in our next video. So when you get ready to write the offer, before writing that offer, step back and evaluate the full picture. Does the home fit your original goal? Does the price make sense compared to recent sales? How long has it been on the market? A lot of these homes have been on the market well over a year. Has the price been reduced? How many times has it been reduced? What was the original price? Is the seller really motivated? Are there any competing offers? Are there obvious repair or insurance concerns that need to be a part of that offer? What would your total monthly and annual cost look like? If it's a rental income, does the rental income, potentially support the price of the home that you're purchasing? And if it's a vacation home, does it really truly fit what your family is looking for? And some of the other things to consider, the offer price, earnest money deposit. Some people call that the escrow, your escrow money. We call it down here your earnest money deposit. That is the money that's when you make that offer, and if both sides agree, you have 3 days in which to wire that earnest money deposit, and that's part of the of that offer as well. And then you've got your inspection period, your financing contingencies, your appraisal considerations, the closing date itself, whether or not personal property or furnishings in the home are going to convey with the sale or not. You got seller concessions that you may want to consider, and a home warranty if it's applicable, and any repairs or credits that you may want from the seller as well. So the best offer is not always the highest price. It's the offer that balances the price, the terms, the risk, and the buyer's goal. So from here, we've got a good start. Hopefully I've helped get you a good start here in terms of what it takes to begin your home search. In the second video, we'll get into the nitty-gritty in terms of making that offer, and then once that offer has been fully executed by both sides, then that's where the work really begins. And we'll cover that in the second video, and hopefully by the third video, we'll get you to close. So until then, we'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.